Hey guys, so hope y'all are well. Today I'm going to go into the backstory of my divorce and the crazy realization that I came to regarding the impulse of me deciding to leave my family abruptly, wife and two daughters. Pretty heavy. I've actually never spoken to anybody about this or written about it, but it's part of what I'm doing. It's learning, and I want to learn to express it all and let it out. And I've noticed, even yesterday during the video, and of course I've noticed journaling, but yesterday, speaking out loud, things just become more clear. So that's what we're doing. So to get started, I got married 2011 to my ex-wife, and our wedding was great. Our marriage was not bad at all, honestly. It really wasn't, hindsight, but I thought it was, because that's how I justified a lot of the decisions I felt I needed to make. The impulsive things and the stimulation that I was chasing. Of course, I didn't know then these are typical things of someone with ADHD and autism, and both in my situation. Not as an excuse, but it's just me learning who I am and incorporating how parts of who I am may have contributed to things I did. So we were married, life was well. I guess about 2017, well, I had become sick. I've always had panic and anxiety disorder. I was diagnosed when I was 17. Put on a few different SSRIs over the course of the years. Nothing really worked. I had taken them, but I never took them for a prolonged period of time, maybe a year or so, most, each one max. And beyond the time frame that placebo was a helpful factor of taking the medications, after that they didn't help. So I've always been an emotional person. I internalize things, and I think the internalizing of so many emotions and so many thoughts and never letting them escape my nervous system leads me to panic attacks, etc. Side note, it's 10:50 a.m. So I'm a building codes inspector for a county in Florida, and I actually came home today because I had a full-blown panic attack this morning. I'm doing keto diet. I feel like the ups and downs for the glucose in the body, the ups and downs, energy crashes, they all kind of coincide with emotional crashes and stimulus crashes for me. So I'm trying different diets. Been doing keto diet. This morning I was having heart palpitations, probably because I'm screwing up my electrolytes. And that sent me into like a holy crap, what's going on? Panic attack. So I decided to take the day off. Thank God I have this job. So anyway, I'm at home sitting in my truck. I was going to film in the yard, but apparently all the neighbors want to be working on their houses today, which is awesome. That's why I live on a little piece of property. We all tinker. Okay, back to the story. So that's kind of been my existence. Panic and anxiety since 17, cycles of panic attacks, yada yada. So about 2000, from like 2013 up to 17, I developed an illness that I thought was CVSA, which is cyclic vomiting syndrome. All the precursors or whatever fit. I'd wake up with panic and anxiety, start vomiting, vomit for 24 hours on the clock uncontrollably. And this would happen, I guess it was happening once a month, once every 2 months for, I think, years. This part of my life was really an emotional blur. But it was a lot of times. I know it was years. I just don't remember exactly how long. I think the time frames got further apart as it went on. So 2017, maybe the end of 16, I started kind of looking inside, like what is going on? I was getting sick, I'm emotional, why am I this way? This is the first point in my life where I looked inward whatsoever, and it was kind of like a weird inward outward look, because it's like, you know, I went into Briggs Meyer and I found out, I thought I was INFJ. This is a fact, but seems horrible now. My ego was like, wow, awesome. This is a rare personality type. This is cool. Like, you're awesome. Whatever. So anyway, went into Briggs Myers. Thought I was INFJ. Turns out I'm INFP. So I'm really digging in with that stuff. You know, all the groups, all the stuff like that. And it kind of, I guess I got to the root, like as deep as that can go. Like, it's psychology. But I feel like there's deeper than just psychology. I mean, I guess that is pretty deep. That's just the way I perceived it. So I started trying to go deeper and deeper. And in this time, I'm like reading about, you have to do things that acknowledge yourself. If you're feeling this way, do things to not feel that way. So if I'm not, basically, if I'm not happy, I need to do things to make myself happy. Or I'm going to be sick, whatever, for forever. Who knows? That's just the way I perceived it. So 2017, I came to the conclusion in my head that I was not happy with my wife and, you know, our relationship. I started outsourcing which I'd always outsourced my happiness. Always chasing stimulus, always impulsively picking up hobbies, diesel trucks for a while, computers for a while, video games for a while, boats, fishing, you name it. Like, it's a typical ADHD thing. I didn't know at the time, but hindsight, I was just impulse after impulse after impulse after impulse. That was my entire existence up until then and after. So my next impulse was pursuing something that I felt like was making me happy. I thought I was making a healthy decision to do something for myself. And let me make sure I hit the record button real quick. I did. Yesterday I scared the living crap out of myself because I talked for like 20 minutes. And when I pulled the phone down, I thought that I didn't record, and I was like, I love doing this, I noticed yesterday, but I was exhausted. I was like, I can't do that again. Like, it takes a lot out of me because I'm very connected to my conversation. Anyway, so I impulsively started looking outside of my marriage for satisfaction and happiness, validating it to myself by saying it was healthy for me to explore how I can be happy. Ridiculous that I never felt I should probably communicate this with my wife at the time. I developed this, so through me looking through Briggs and Myers and trying to figure myself out, I tried talking to her about it a few times, and it was just, she wasn't really interested. So I kind of built this wall and created this resentment in myself, and I used that to validate and fuel my decision to be impulsive and look elsewhere. So I remember vividly 2017, I'd never really been big on social media, but I got into Instagram, and that's where I was listening to different people's perspectives on themselves and personalities and whatnot. Well, I started talking to a woman on there, and I developed an emotional relationship because I could express myself. So at this point, I have somebody to talk to on a regular basis, and it created my separation more from my home life. And I remember vividly being at work. At the time, I was working for myself, concrete construction, and I remember being on a job, like I remember the name of the contractor, I remember exactly what I was doing, and I remember that up until that time, my fulfillment in being stimulated was running my company and doing work. And I remember when it shifted to it being inside this relationship on my phone with this person. And then all of a sudden that was my hyper focus. And that is hyper focus is what led me to make decisions that I made. So I think it was the end of 2017. I decided that my relationship with my wife is what was making me sick. I was still sick at this point. I had gone to the Keys with my family, my grandfather, cousin. I've got a half brother on my mom's side that's much younger than me, and some other family. This was like the second to last time I got sick, but we were all hanging out. We rented a big house, and I got sick there. And we had drank a little the night before. I remember everybody else thinking like, oh, it's from drinking. They went out on the boat. I was at home throwing up whatever. None of them knew this is something I experienced intermittently for years. I didn't tell anybody. I went to the hospital. Typical scenario was I'd have to go to the hospital and they'd have to hydrate me because I would become severely dehydrated. It's almost like a conscious coma state where you're like laying down, kind of in like a conscious coma type state. And the only thing you do is get up to vomit, come back for 24 hours. Obviously, that can dehydrate a fella. So went to the Keys, came back, and that's when I realized this relationship's making me sick. She's making me sick. Placing blame, of course, not taking responsibility. I take it now. So I decided I'm leaving, and I left. Keep in mind, we have 2 daughters together. I feel like I'll get into it more, but this is something that will always remain probably one of the most powerful learning situations in my life, because I don't understand. I do understand how I could do it, but I don't understand how I could not be aware of what I was actually doing in real time. So I left my family. I left. I told my wife I was not coming back. I never did. I left. I said, you can have our place was paid for, little piece of property, mobile home. I told her she could have it. No mortgage, whatever. It doesn't lessen the horrible thing I did. So I left. I started living my life I was happy, right? Of course I'm freaking happy. I'm hyper focused now on an impulse and am able to pursue it. Like, that's what makes an ADHD person happy. So I was happy. I think I lost 60 pounds in 2 months. Went vegan, created this whole persona, created an Instagram page. I've always been big into fishing. I'm from Florida. My family's always fished. So I was working on one of the boats that I had, and I started an Instagram page because what I wanted to do was not fishing charters, but take people out to the beaches, create an atmosphere for more like a healthy spiritual thing for them to just relax and be and experience other things other than just fishing. I feel like that's all people come and pay to do is fish on private charters. And it's awesome, but that's not what I wanted to do. Started this Instagram following page, had like 4,000 followers. So I've got this big ego, this big, hyper focus, this big scenario, like I'm happy. Man. So I do that. I end up cutting communication with the woman that I was speaking with. She lived in Michigan, and I was supposed to fly and see her, and she kept canceling. Turns out I was being catfished. Whatever is what it is. Interesting. So I went on with life. I kept doing what I was doing. I was free to pursue impulses. At this time, I'm not communicating with my ex, barely communicating with my kids, and it really puts me in a place of thinking I deserve everything that I'm going through right now. So don't think for a second I don't take responsibility, and I don't acknowledge that it was a really crappy thing for me to do, because I'll always feel that way. So chasing my impulses, I end up through Instagram still meeting a woman that lives in Oregon. We're talking, developing a relationship. I fly out to California to meet her. We meet, we spend like 3 or 4 days together. I come back, so after I met her, when I'm talking with her, I decided, you know what? I was like researching, the whole time I'm talking to her, I'm researching Oregon and Northern California. It's literally like off I-5 on the California-Oregon border. I was going to be working in Ashland, Oregon. She lived in Medford. So I'm looking into this area, and I'm looking at jobs. I'm like, are there jobs there? Like, I feel like, so I'm not just going to say I feel like doing something. I'm going to explain it to you. In my head, where I was I've born and raised in Florida. I've done what I've done my entire life, had a family young. I'm ready to go out. I'm ready to explore the world. I'm ready to experience experiences. At this point, I wasn't getting sick anymore. So I think I validated to myself, oh, that is what was making me sick. It was my relationship with my wife and my wife. I fixed it. I'm an idiot. Still am. Definitely was then. So I find a job listing on Craigslist in Medford, Oregon, working in Ashland. And I set up an interview with him. I fly out. So I meet her in California. My interview is in Oregon. She drives me to my interview. He tells me anytime I want to come, the job is mine. It was for a concrete finisher framer position. The job's mine. I fly back. Things start falling apart between her and I. It ran its course. What was supposed to happen happened. And for a few months, I stayed in contact with the company owner in Medford. No communication with her. Company owner in Medford. I also got so at this time I was living with my dad, and I was extremely depressed because when the girl that, inflated my ego that I was talking to in Oregon, the escape, the big fantasy I had built in my head, when it stopped, and she said, you're not a healthy person, and basically labeled all kinds of labels, I got depressed as F-U-C-K, bad. I'd go to work. I started working for my dad at this point. I couldn't really do my own company. I couldn't focus on it. My dad does concrete as well. Living with him, I'd go to work. We'd get home at 2 or 3. I'd go upstairs to the bedroom and not come out of that bedroom until we went to work the next day, probably for 2 months straight. So she broke it off with me. I stayed in contact with the company owner there. And just an FYI, my current wife doesn't even know all the details to all this story. She's aware, and I'll get into it later, but her and I ended up moving to Medford a year later, and I ended up taking the same job with the wife that I'm married with now, moving with me. Life's fucking crazy. I'm not spelling that one out. It deserves the emphasis. I'll get to that later, probably another episode, whatever the heck you want to call it. She breaks it off with me. I'm depressed. This is the first time I start realizing my traits and things that I do, impulses, maybe narcissism, trying to figure it all out. But I put all the blame on myself. First time ever. Depressed the shit out of me because I was like, how in the bro? Like, bro, what's the matter with you? So I was bad. I started like trying to learn about dark night of the soul, and I do believe that's what I went through. Hindsight, the darkest, most depressing things are the biggest opportunities for growth, in my opinion. hindsight, definitely didn't see it that way then. Didn't think I was coming out of that hole. So she broke it off. I'm depressed. I'm living with my dad at the time. I realize all the decisions I made and why I think I made them. Still not aware I'm ADHD or autistic. And then I'm like, oh my God, look what you did to your family. So very briefly, I reached out to my ex-wife, and she was willing to work out our relationship. And we talked briefly. And then I realized this isn't right. What you're doing isn't healthy. What I'm doing is I'm looking for comfort where I had it before. And so I decided that it wasn't the right thing to do. And I believe it wasn't the right thing to do. My ex-wife, I think she's an amazing person. She just is. She's a good person, great with the kids, very present. A lot of things that you'd want a mother to be, she is. And she said to me one time, you know, I'm glad that you ended it, because I feel like we were on a treadmill and we were just like walking the walk, and I pushed us off of the treadmill, and that's when we realized that the walk we were walking was not healthy. So thank you to her for saying that. It still hangs with me to this day, especially when I'm beating myself up. Anyway, and I still do sometimes. I probably always will, but that's how I learn. So we talked briefly. I don't speak to her anymore. Then I decide, you know what? I'm just going to be single. I'm going to experience the world, look at all these, outside things that I'm chasing to be happy, relationships. Like, I need to be happy by myself. So I start living that way. I start doing meetup groups with a friend that I made for like spiritual things. And, we'd have 9 or 10 people come. I don't remember how often we were doing them, once a week or something, but I was finding my happiness. So I lived with my dad for, I think, 2 months. They were moving, and he's like, we're moving. So I found a little apartment, and I moved in by myself. So I was living by myself. At this point, I was like 5 minutes from the girls, and I was getting to see them. Like, I was taking them to the park. We were hanging out, and it really freaking beats me up sometimes because I have my 5-year-old now, and he reminds me, he's just in the age that they were when all that was happening. So I have very vivid memories of just connecting with my kids at the park, hanging out, swinging, looking at ducks, whatever we're doing, and I miss it. And I fucked it up. It is what it is. We'll figure it out. That's why I'm not. Everybody gave me advice. Just sit back. Let it all happen. Let them unfold. They'll come back. Like, I believe in manifestation, and I believe you're either doing it or you're not. And this is me doing it. What I'm doing right now. Don't know if it'll work, but I'm doing something. Anyway, had the apartment and was living my life, working with my dad, finding my peace. And then I decided, I kind of want to get on like a dating app, and I want to meet somebody that might be in a similar journey, like a more intentional journey, I guess. Because I feel like the people that I were meeting before were a lot like me, chasing impulses, and they didn't know. And I was a shoe that fit, and we, impulsively pranced through the forest until we smashed into a tree, and then we all went our separate ways and whatever. It's kind of what I feel like. So I am doing this. It was Meet Mindful, and it's where I met my wife, my current wife. So we met there. We started talking back and forth. And her and I both approached the relationship, communicated this with each other, and made decisions based on it that it may be nothing, maybe it's nothing, but it feels good right now. So we're not going to let fear make decisions for us. We're going to follow the way we feel until something happens and we're not supposed to, and we separate, and hey, we both decided at that point, hey, it was fun, you're awesome, but we're on our way. So that was kind of, I think, the vibe we were both on. Oh man, I guess we'd been talking for 2 months. We met in Fort Myers one time, kept talking. We ended up moving to St. Pete, Florida, to a high-rise. I'm a country boy. I'd never experienced that kind of life. So I wanted to experience. So we moved to this high-rise. We're walking around downtown St. Pete. We lived there for a while. I'd mentioned to her Oregon a few times. I'm like, man, it's freaking, like, it's amazing. The people are amazing. It was amazing. It's just different. And I remember we were laying in the bed in our studio apartment. The girls used to come over and visit, by the way. It was a studio. They had their own little area and bunk bed. And we hung out there. Some good memories that if I think about too much, I'll probably start tearing up. But some good memories. Innocent memories. No resentment. No nothing. Just some good times. So we decided to... I was laying in the bed beside her and I was looking, I'd been talking about Oregon and I was like, I wonder if that dude's still hiring. And he was. Coincidentally enough, he's hiring. And I stayed in communication with him. It had been a couple months, but I was like, hey, I'm ready to come work. And he's like, I told you anytime you come. So we sold every one of our belongings, everything we owned. We talked with the girls about it. I'm so retarded. So the girls were, this was end of 2019, I think. It's hard to remember. End of 2019, I think. I'd spoken, so the girls are, what is that, 7 years ago? Emma, I'm gonna have to delete another name. My oldest daughter is 10, my youngest daughter is 5. And I am so retarded that I'm having a discussion with them like they're an adult and are able to process this and interpret it as an adult, asking them if they're okay with me moving. Of course they're not fucking okay with me moving. So, life's lessons, right? Hindsight, by the way. Didn't know it then. Should have. So, we end up selling all our stuff. We load up her Jeep Cherokee. Mentioned one of those yesterday if you watched yesterday's video. And we drive from Florida to Oregon, California border, just off I-5, literally like a hilt, California. We end up moving into a tiny house, literally 8x16 with a loft on the side of a mountain. I don't even know how somebody ends up in that situation, but it was freaking amazing. Other than the fact that it was eating me up about the girls. So we worked there and lived there for 6 months. COVID started becoming a big deal. We both lost our jobs. We ended up coming back to Florida. So obviously I stayed in contact with the girls while I was there, virtually, nothing physically. Crazy. I think we actually communicated more when I was away than the last 2 years here, being an hour away from each other. So I kind of wanted in this video to go back, like backtrack some to the divorce, because it's a big part of everything. Like, I feel like I bounced all over the place and I went really quickly through a big time frame. So if you want me to like focus on one bit, please ask, because the point of this whole thing is for me to express myself, tell my story, learn that it's okay to tell my story, be vulnerable, and when you guys ask, it can help me to find things to focus on to get even deeper. So it's helpful. So I'll leave it here. At this point, we just got back from Oregon, California border and have an apartment in Lutz, near Tampa, whatever. I guess it doesn't matter if you know physical locations. I don't know how all this crap works, dude. I'm winging it. So yeah, that's it. I appreciate you guys watching. Side note, so I don't know shit about like posting to YouTube, but I you know, thank God for AI. I figured out how to post. I figured out how to do a comment, do a thumbnail, whatever. This morning, I actually drove to work because I was trying to muscle through. I'm sitting in my truck and I pull up YouTube Studio and there's comments and there's like 90 views and I'm like, what the hell? So how I make a video and you guys are even interested to watch and actually watch the whole freaking 20 whatever minutes and then ask me questions about things that you listen to is mind-blowing. And absolutely, completely, so much appreciated because it gives me confidence to keep doing it. It really helped. It really meant a lot. I freaking cried in my truck. Then I started having heart palpitations and a panic attack and came home, but unassociated. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.